So today we are back again with another alpha story, and this time we have come up with a market leader in wires and cable business. And or not just that, even it is one of the fastest growing player in the FMEG industry. So any guess who is it? So let's find out more from our amazing speaker for today. So we have Mr. Prabhat Ranjan. He is a CFA charter holder from CFA Institute USA, and he is an investment management professional with more than 5 years of experience in equity research and portfolio management, asset allocation and advisory, etc. And he has done his BTech from BVP Pune and MBA from Delhi School of Economics. He covers sectors like manufacturing, cement chemicals, automotive, and other sectors at Wright Horizon. And previously, he was an investment and research associate at Klein Associates. Second, we have another speaker, that is Mr. Vijay Chauhan. He has completed his BTech from IIT and MBA from IIM. He covers areas like financial services, pharma, IT, FMCG, and so many other sectors. He previously raised capital with other partners based in Surat, and he also invests in Indian small cap and micro cap companies. So I hope you all are excited for today's session. And let me introduce you to our first speaker, that is Mr. Prabhat Ranjan. Over to you, sir.
So meanwhile, a big thank you to all of you for joining this Saturday morning, and hope everyone is safe and well. So before starting the presentation, just a quick disclaimer that our presentation and stock discussion is just for the audience awareness and educational purpose, and we are holding the stocks in our portfolio. So please don't consider it as an investment advice or a stock recommendation from the RHCMS team.
Yeah, so I'll turn off my video since there's some bandwidth issue, right? So I'll continue with the audio format along with the presentation. So coming back to the presentation, welcome back to the second edition of Alpha Stories, which we started 2 months back to educate our audiences about stocks that we are holding in our portfolio. So today we'll be going through one of the highly overvalued business segment, which is dominated by organized players and 1 or 2 MNC brands. So now that we are a consumption-led economy and we know that there is a huge growth potential for electrical goods manufacturing companies, mainly due to the improving infra demand, increasing automation needs, setting up of industries to fulfill demand gap and telecom network upgrade. So we have finalized one company from the segment which looks reasonably valued in terms of trailing multiples, have aggressive future growth plans, and also focuses on cost rationalization for the margin improvement things that the company is doing. So the company got listed just 2 years back and has already become a formidable player in other business segments. So be it the business growth or financial ratios, company has demonstrated superior execution than its peers over the last 2 years, and also has led down a growth plan which caught our attention. So that's why, we are continuing with this company in our portfolio. And if you're an IPL fan, you must have come across this name, as company is doing a lot of branding activities to gain the market share. So today, just without further ado, we'll be discussing about the Polycab today, which is the latest in the wires and cable segment, and also eyeing other verticals like FMEG for its rapid expansion plans. Yeah, so today we'll be discussing about Polycab. So Polycab is a leader in wires and cable business. It started business in 1965 with a single retail store, and now has a 25 manufacturing facilities spread across 7 different locations, with 4 regional sales offices and 16 local sales offices. So currently it has around 22% market share of organized market in wires and cable segment, while 40% of overall market share it also caters to, right? Both organized and unorganized combined. So if you want to compare things into perspective, right? So the Polycab revenue is 1.8x from the wire and cable segment than its closest peer, and 2.4x in terms of what the revenue the second closest peer is generating. So that's how formidable its wire and cable business plays. It has also a strong distribution network of 4,100 touch points. It has got 3,000 FMEG dealers pushing its product to the retailers. And then it has 1.65 lakhs retail touch points, around 1.8 lakhs electricians are working under its influencer program, which actually influences the end user to go for the Polycab and not for any other brand, right? And also to make users more comfortable with its offering, it has around 7 experience centers across India. So its FMEG business, which is currently in focus, is also the fastest growing FMEG business in India, which has grown at a CAGR of 37% over the last 5 years. The company has a solid management and currently run by second generation entrepreneurs, while in total promoter team has more than 40 years of experience in running the company. So Mr. Inder Jaisinghani, who is the chairman and MD of the company, basically heads the company's operation. And basically, if you look at the promoter holding, so it's around 68%. FIs, TIs account for 18% share, while public holds 13% stake in the company. So it has a market cap of total of 28,000 crore, and it's quickly transitioning from a mid-cap company to a large-cap company. So that was a brief overview of the company. Moving to the segments in which it operates. If we can just move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So just like any other domestic player, like the company also started its operation in the wires and cable segment now, which is easy to manufacture but have low margins, and then quickly move to other value-added segments. So basically, company started its operation in 1964 from a single saw, right? And then from there on, company has quickly gone into set up a plant, wire and cable plant, and then in 2009, actually in 1996, the Polycab company got incorporated, and then in 2009, the landmark fundraising came from the private equity arm of World Bank Group, and then it started the FMEG business in 2014. Then it got IPO in 2019, which was 52x oversubscribed, and the company keep adding product to its segment. Then company keeps adding new product ranges to its segments, and now company has in 2021, when the company has clocking 9,000 crore revenue, close to 9,000 crore revenue. So the company has come up with a 5-year vision of touching 20,000 crore revenue by 2026. So this has been the brief journey of the company. So from here on, company and the management has become very aggressive in terms of what the targets they are setting for themselves, right? And they are actually very aggressive. They have just recently come up with a 5-year plan, which we'll be discussing later on, right? So if you can just move to the next slide, please. So normally next slide, please.
So just a second, sir.
Yeah, am I audible? Yes, great, please. And participants are requested to mute their audio and video, please. Yeah, thank you. So currently the company, just coming to the segments, so the 81% revenue comes from the wires and cables business, around 11.5% from the FMEG business, and 7.5% from the others. So the company is both into B2B and B2C segment. It's mainly into, correct slide. So it's mainly into B2B business, which accounts for 60% of the business revenue, and basically supplies cables and wires like power cable, control cable, instrumentation cable to different industries such as IT, power, renewable energy, oil and gas, electricity, electric vehicle, etc. Right. So if you talk about the marquee clients that the company is having, so basically it's catering to companies like Reliance, Honeywell Automation, Bosch, Jio, Government of India, Tata Power, ISRO, some of the companies, just to get a reference, where the company is catering into B2B segment. It also has a B2C segment, which accounts for 40% of the revenue, which incorporates retail wire sales and FMEG business. So the FMEG business is fast-moving electrical goods business, in which it sells items like fan, lighting, switchgear, etc. So the business was up in 2014. The FMCG business was set up in 2014 to leverage its strong brand value and strong distribution touchpoint connects. So the company is also exporting around 8%, 8.5% of the revenue comes from the export side. So the company is currently exporting 50% of export goes to the US market, and then some of export goes to the Asian markets and Australian market. Right. So basically, these are the broader key segments, like companies mainly into wires and cables, fast moving electrical goods, and EPC and other projects. Moving to the next slide, please. Yeah, so these are the brief product portfolios that the company has, and just quickly, apart from the product portfolios that the company has mentioned here, company is also foraying into electricals ecosystem, where it is focusing on diversified portfolios, which are becoming the industry trends. So basically, it has recently launched its home automation series by the name of Automation. So basically, it's focusing on IT-based product line, and companies also focusing on integrated solution for home products to increase the brand recall and enhance the customer experience, right? So these are some of the traditional kind of wires and cables and FMEG products that the company is manufacturing, but increasingly going forward, the company is focusing a lot on value added and good margin product items like integrated home solutions. So yeah, moving to the next slide, please. So yes, so basically talking about the manufacturing plants and distribution centers. So company has a 4,100 strong authorized dealers working for the company. It has, as mentioned earlier, 1.65 retailers to service the B2C clients. And basically, its company is working on developing a better distributor presence in South India. So company is currently it's manufacturing through 25 different manufacturing facilities present across 7 different locations in India. And these would be Gujarat, Maharashtra, Nasik, Roorkee, Chani, and Waghodia. So these are some of the major manufacturing hubs for the company. And company is increasingly spending a lot to improve the R&D capabilities, right? And focusing a lot on the backward integration, which Vijay will discuss in detail in forthcoming slides. But yeah, company is really having good capacity to meet the future demand, and also doing a 300 crore capex this year, plus roughly 1,000 crore capex going forward. These plans are not formalized, but this is what we got to know from our interaction with the management, that it's going to do roughly this much of capex over next 4 or 5 years to meet its 20,000 crore of the revenue target. So going forward in the next slide. Yeah, so coming to the financial performance of the company, right? So the company has good ROCE, if you compare it to the peers, so it's it ranks top in terms of the financial ratios the company is reporting. So the company has a ROCE of 21.6%. If you look at the revenue CAGR, which is coming roughly around 10% over last 5 years. So the revenue of the company is compounded by a rate of 10% over last 5 years. And talking about the PAT of the company, next slide, please. So the profit of the company or the earnings of the company has compounded at a rate of 30%, right? And if you look at the debt to equity level of the company, so which is used to be 0.42% in FY17, has just become negligible in current financial year, right? So normally we discuss this in every presentation that we have actually 3 stringent parameters to onboard a company in our portfolio. And we look at on the long-term basis, the company is able to do a sustainable sales, which is more than 8% on an annualized basis. The company is able to meet its cost of capital, which is it should have ROCE of more than 12%, and company should not be over leveraged, right? So that whatever the margins it's creating, it also goes down to the bottom line of the company. So basically, the debt to equity level should be less than 1.5, and on all those 3 parameters, the company is doing exceptionally well. So basically, what the company is doing, it's trying to root its money. It has identified a good framework, right? So basically, it's building a strong manufacturing capability through its R&D expense, and then strengthening its distribution network, which is again the core to the company's sales plan. And then basically, because of the increased manufacturing focus and the distribution reach, company is able to increase the profitability of the company, right? And the profitability which is coming is basically funding your growth plans for the next stage, right? So the entire growth plan is funded by, it's not by leverage, but by from the internal accruals. And through the internal accruals, since it's a high margin business, it's focusing on optimizing the business revenue, optimizing the business performance, right? So the incremental profitability is invested back in technology and to build capacity for the future. So this is what engine that the company has cracked, which is fueling its growth for over the last few years, and it will continue to fuel its growth over like next 4 to 5 years at least, right? So the company has recently come up with a 5-year plan to shift its the business through three-pronged approach. So basically, these are the Project Leap, Project Udan, and Project Shikhar. So Project Leap, the Project Leap is basically your 20,000 crore sales target by 2026. Udan is basically your cost optimization plan, and Shikhar is basically for increasing the penetration and sales in tier 2 cities, and onboarding more influencers on the company's platform so that they can actually influence the customers, right? So these are all very integrated way in which the company is actually working on. It's not just focusing on one of the parameters, but it's focusing on 3-4 different things, right? So that it also taking care of the R&D and product innovation. It also focusing on deeper penetration, and then obviously the focus is to take the top line to 20,000 crore. And currently, if you look at the operating margin levels, so basically there is an expectation of 4 to 5% of improvement in the margin, right? And that's a big cost in basis point. It's 400 to 500 basis point improvement in the margins. That's going to be there over next 5 to 6 years, right? So that can translate into humongous earnings potential for the company. So I leave it to my colleague Vijay to take you through this more strategic plans and the investment thesis and some of the risk associated with the company. So over to you, Vijay, now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhat. So now, Prabhat has set the stage, what the Polycab is all about and how the Polycab is doing till now. So now I would like to discuss about the investment thesis or the how that execution will happen, like the goal of reaching the 20,000 crore of revenue in next 5 years. So we'll talk about it in depth, how it is planning to achieve and whether it is possible for a company to achieve such kind of growth that they are talking about. So we will first begin with, so to start with, we need to understand the industry where it is operating. So we will now look at how the wires and cable industry operate under the Indian domain. So if we talk about say the total industry size of the wires and cables industry, so it's around 50,000 to 55,000 odd crore. Okay, and if we look at the leaders in terms of the cable segment, so we can see the Polycab attains around 19% market share as per the FY20 revenue basis. And if we talk about the second highest market share player, is the KEI industry, which is also known as the Krishna Electricals Limited. So as we can see, the most of the market is organized, because if you look at the industry size of 50,000 crore, out of that 35,000 crore is catered by that part is catered by the organized player. So if we talk about on the overall level, so Polycab has around 12 to 13% kind of market leadership and market share in the wires and cable segment. So which is a quite dominant position if we are talking about. And as government is focusing a lot on the infrastructure capex side, so that can be a major boost for the wires and cables company, because in most of the capital goods, or let's say the infrastructure projects, the major consumption is also happening on the wires and cable segment side. So that is on the wires and cables industry on a whole level. But let's say we have also tried to capture how the industry is expected to grow for next 5 years. So we can see that industries can easily grow by 12% CAGR on year-over-year basis till 26. So we can see that it has a very strong tailwind. So it is very important for a company to have some kind of let's say the tailwind from the sector itself, because what we have observed in Indian stock market and also on the global stock market level, when companies are doing well, but they are facing some, let's say, the headwinds, so they will not be able to create shareholders wealth. Okay, so that can lead to, let's say, I would just give example of the company called Gillette, which is a quite famous company. Most of the Indian people are very familiar with it, the shaving company. And they have a monopoly in terms of, let's say, the shaving market. But what went wrong with the company was because the industry itself is stagnating. The company is not able to grow its revenue in last couple of years, and which has also affected its stock price. If you look at now, the stock price has cooled down quite much. So that is the like the problem when you are facing the headwinds from the industry. But in this case, we can see there is a decent tailwind in the wires and cable segment, and we are like on the like we are very sure that we will be achieving double digit at least mid-teen growth rate on the industry side. So now we have a fair idea like the how the industry is looking, and what are the key players that are like playing this game. So now we will talk about like how the Polycab is trying to differentiate itself from the other industry player. So for that we need to like look at about how the Polycab company is projecting itself to the industry. So for that we need to deep dive into the brand segment. So please move on to the next slide. Yeah. So as you can see, like for this is a public image that company has created. So company basically focus on the three mediums, basically the print, television, and the digital. Okay. So if we talk about, let's say the when like the Polycab was like focusing that how they should let's say picture themselves, or let's say how should they focus to the Indian public. So they understood that there should be very like the catchy and sticky tagline, okay, or the brand line that should be captured with the, let's say that should stay in the minds of the customers or the dealers or distributors or whoever is using that product or whoever is looking at that advertisement. So they came up with this the tagline called Connection Zindagi Ka, and it has worked phenomenally well for this company because it's a quite sticky when we are talking about, and they have done like various advertisement campaigns on the television medium, like hiring actors like Ayushmann Khurrana and Paresh Rawal, and they have also done lots of like the distributor and dealers engagement program, as we have like tried to capture in this slide. And they have also like they have started to reward their dealers and distributors which are like being loyal to them through the Bandhan Star app. So how the company has like started thinking differently from a commodity view. So they started building those initiatives, and that initiative has helped them to grow their let's say the return on capital employed or the profit margin for the financial side. And if we look at the branding and sales expenditure, so earlier they were spending around 0.4% of their sales. So if we look at the FY22 like contribution, so it's around 1.2% of the total sales. So we can see the 3x jump in the advertising and the sales promotion expenditure. So any company like who builds the brand, they get a like a they become a pull product. They are not the push product. When you are not spending enough behind the brand, you have to like push very hard to like the sell your products. But when like in case of iPhone, or let's say the Samsung, or let's say big companies who have very solid brand recall, so they don't have to like push the products to the industry. The product itself has very natural pull. So Polycab is also trying to do the same thing in the wires and cable segment. So now we have a fair idea like how the Polycab is differentiating itself from the other players. So now we will focus on the new step. So move on to the next slide, please. Uh, yeah, next one. Yeah. So now we know like the company has built a separate image. So now we need to understand what are their offerings that like the customers will have when they are coming to the Polycab. Let it be the institutional client or let's say the retail client. So Polycab has tried to manufacture all the kinds of the wires that is available across the value chain. Let it be the power and control or industrial cable or extra high voltage power cable, housing wire, instrumentation cables. So it has become a one-shop solution for the its institutional as well as retail client. So there is one thing very clear: when client goes to the Polycab, they know that they are going to get all the kinds of different wires. So that inherently like creates a sort of like memory recall in the institutional client's mind or retail's mind, because anyone who like goes to shopping would like to get all the things from one place because they know that the quality will be good and I can get the better price. So Polycab has successfully done it by manufacturing all the value chain products, and it operates on basically the two types of model. The first is the made to stock, and another one is the made to order. So what happens in the made to stock? So what Polycab does, like it forecasts the demand on the ground level from the dealer side, and then they manufacture the inventory. So what happens, like because they know that there will be, let's say, some demand in January, or there is some high demand in May. Okay, so they will manufacture accordingly. Okay, so that will help them to like not like they won't face any like the demand lag on the dealer side, and they can capture the higher market share, because once you have the solid inventory, the dealer can distribute the same company again to the clients, okay, because they have enough inventory. Another is the made to order. So what happens in the made to order? So Polycab gives the chance to its dealers, or let's say the institutional clients, to customize the products, okay, because when we are talking about, let's say, the institutional clients, so they will have like very particular requirement. Let's say they are installing one power project, okay. So for that power project, they will require that I need like 11,000 volt extra high voltage line with copper wiring, or let's say the insulation layer of 5 mm. So these are all customized like products. So company has also given option that they can customize their products for institutional clients, and it manufactures around under the made to order business model. So what we have seen, like it is also distributing the like the its products to various industries like healthcare, oil and gas, renewable energy, IT, digitalization, infrastructure, metal, defense, mass transit, you name it, you will find the like some presence across the whole industry cycle. So it is very important for any company to think holistically from the customer's client of view. So I think we think that Polycab has done it very well by understanding their clients' needs and like giving the different value options across the whole value chain. So now we know that how the Polycab has created its brand image. Now, what are they offering to the, let's say, client or the brand to their industry? Now we need to understand how they are making sure that that product is reaching to the client on time, and in terms of quality, it should be higher. So we'll now look at about the distribution channel and the manufacturing plants. So quickly move on to the next slide. So like Prabhat earlier talked about like the distribution channel. So just to build on that further point. So today, like Polycab has more than 4,100 plus authorized dealers and distributors. And out of them, like 50% are exclusively for the FMEG. So FMEGs are like the fast moving electrical goods like fans, or let's say the heaters. So those are all named as the fast moving electrical goods. Okay. So 50% of the dealers are exclusively for the FMEG type. 28% of the dealers are for the wires and cables dealers, and 20% of the dealers are the common dealers. Okay. And if we talk about the retail touch points, it's around 1.65 lakh across the whole India for the B2C side. And as you can see, like the different institutional clients, like we have like named like Siemens or Larsen and Toubro, Honeywell, Vedanta, Reliance Industry. So it has a very solid and murky client list. And also on the B2C side, they have a very strong like the distribution network, because they have like identified the strong trends across the wires and cables segment, also on the FMEG side. So this strong distribution network helps Polycab to deliver on time to, let's say, the any part of the India. So for that, we also would like to look at the manufacturing locations, which is playing a key role in like the distribution part as well. So move on to the next slide, please. So as you can see in this Indian map, so we can see there are more than approximately 25 manufacturing locations spread across the whole India, and 30 warehouses across the different 20 states of the India. So what we have, like what we understand from this, so they have tried to diversify their locations, okay, whole across the India. Let it be the north region, let it be the eastern region, mid central region, west region, and south region. So why to do this? Why it is required to like the manufacture on the separate locations? Because let's say if we have to send the product from Bombay to, let's say, the Assam, so the transportation cost will increase quite heavily, because either we are using, let's say, rail transportation or the truck transportation or air transportation. So and also it will it will increase the delivery time on the dealer level. So for that purpose, we need to like diversify across the geography our manufacturing location. So that Polycab has done fantastically well. If we can see in this map, it's quite well spread across the geographies of India. And because of that, the transportation cost has sufficiently come down, and it has also helped the dealers because they can order now multiple times, because they are not worried about like the delivery lag and something like this. So this is how like the strategically located manufacturers helps any company to like reduce the transportation cost and build a solid moat for the dealer side as well. Okay. So now we will look at the another part of the business. So this is in this like the 5 points we talked about what is the outer part of the business, like the what is their brand, what are their product offerings to the clients, what are their plant locations, and how they are like capturing the market share, or what is their current market share. Now we need to look at inside the company, that what company is doing that that is giving us confidence that it will be able to achieve the target of 20,000 odd crore in the next 4 to 5 years. So please move on to the next slide. Yeah. So we all know that most of the Indian chemical companies in 2018 started booming, because most of the the global players, like let's say the leaders in the chemical segment or the pharmaceutical segment, understood the sourcing risk from the China side, and they started diversifying to various countries. So similarly, Polycab understood that, and Polycab understood that if we are facing some kind of, let's say, the raw material shortage or any issues regarding the raw material, so we will the it will disrupt the entire supply chain, and the revenue will be collapsed because in terms of any, let's say, the supply shortage. So they started to think about it, and they started their JV with one company under the Riker plant, where they started manufacturing raw materials for their internal consumption. So it's a very thoughtful process to think in terms of long side. Although like initial years the margins were down because they were getting, let's say, the plant was just plant has just started to operate. But eventually what has happened, the supply risk has sufficiently gone down. And if we look at the today's company operation, 65% of the raw material is coming through the internal consumption. So it's a very quite big achievement for a company like the cables and wires and cables company, because India, most of the raw material that other players are importing is coming from the, let's say, the global region like China, or let's say the Southeast Eastern countries, which is contributing more than 50% of their raw material. But Polycab is the only company who has been able to achieve the 65% of raw material from internal side. So this has helped them to gain better control of the supply chain. It has also brought down their cost of operations. So those are the main two advantages. And it has also given them the control over the quality, okay, because they know what they want to deliver to their client. Okay, so let's say somebody is manufacturing raw material for you, so they are not more bothered about what the final client will do. Okay, but here the Polycab is also manufacturing the raw material, they are also manufacturing the final goods, so they know that what their client wants, and they can maintain the same quality when it comes to the raw material. Okay, so that has helped them to industry to keep the benchmark leading quality in the wires and cable segment. And also they are very focused in terms of the backward integration. So they have announced around 300 crore of odd capex in this FY20 year, FY22 year, to keep building on the backward integration side. So now moving on to the next slide, please. Yeah. So when we come to the, let's say, the businesses which are working on, let's say, the dealers and distribution side, so Polycab has also done a survey how they can, let's say, optimize the dealers and distributors the profit and loss account. Because let's say when we are selling our products to dealers and distributors, we need to understand whatever loyalty points or whatever brand advertising we do, that is not directly going to turn up in their profit and loss of the dealer. Okay, so we need to go one more level deep, and we need to understand how their profit and loss will increase, okay, for a dealer perspective. So Polycab has done the same, and what they identified, if they can decrease the delivery period, so what will happen, dealer will have chance to when they are placing order, they can order for, let's say, number of less days. Let's say they know that the plant is only, let's say, the 200 km away, so they are very assured that I will get my goods in 1 or 2 days. Okay, but when, let's say, the plant is say in another state 1500 km away, so they know, okay boss, I need to at least wait for 7 or 8 days for goods to come to my shop. Okay, so they will order always in bunch. But when they know that the plant is nearby, so they can order more rapidly. And what happens when the number of days to your shop decreases, let's say the goods is reaching in only 2 days, so that dealer will only order for next 3-4 days, because when my goods will come to end, I will order on the 3rd or 4th day, and I will go get my goods on the 5th day. Okay, so that will decrease the working capital requirement, and that will increase their, let's say, the profit and loss for the dealers level. Okay, because normally dealer finances the inventory which they bring from the manufacturers. Okay, so this will lead to the short working capital cycle. Also, like the number of days are decreasing, so also like dealer is able to sell the products very quickly because they are ordering small, they are selling small. So this will also decrease the account receivable period for the Polycab. Okay, so how they have performed on this initiative. So I would just like to share the one number. So in FY17, they had account receivable days of 90 days. Okay, what it means, like today, if they have delivered the goods to the dealer, dealer was paying after 90 days. Okay, whatever inventory they have delivered. Okay, so that has come down to 57 days. Okay, so earlier they were getting their payment in 3 months, now they are getting in 2 months. Okay, and they are very sure that we are going to decrease it to 30 to 35 days in next 3 to 4 years of time. And that will like give us the confidence that they can achieve like the industry beating margin, and they can maintain those kind of margin because they are doing something different. Okay, so now we have all the idea like how the Polycab is trying to win this market. So we need to now look at what will the final destination in terms of, let's say, if we are planning to invest in this company, so what our company should look like when we are, let's say, exiting the business. So now we look at about talk about the final destination for this company. So please move on to the next slide. Yeah. So yeah, so if we talk about, let's say, the we can look on the future outlook. I think there is some scribbles going on by some in the participant has done, I think. So I think we have to deal with it if we can try to just clean up. Kavita, you can try, or we will like go around with it. There is some scribbles on the screen. It's
Yes,
okay, I
sir.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Like I think still it is visible. It was done some by some participant called Mukti or something. No issues. Like
Yeah,
so.
audience, please excuse us for the inconvenience and all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So we need to talk about the final destination. Okay, the final destination, how it will look like. So it will look like the 20,000 odd crore of revenue by FY26. So that is the only one goal that they have in mind. And what are the three key pillars which they are trying to build this or let's say achieve this goal? So first is the Project Leap, which is on the growth side. Second is the Project Udan, which is the cost. And last is the Project Shikhar, which is the expansion. Okay. So Project Leap is like to go about the business to directly client kind of portfolio, which is the dealer and distributor network, which is the B2C offerings, and achieve the 20,000 crore of sales in the by FY26. Second program, which is the Project Udan. So it is focusing on the cost side. So they are trying to decrease the cost, like discussing with the companies like BCG or McKinsey and hiring them on the cost optimization side. And for them, they can internally increase the margin. Okay, so they don't have to charge higher to their clients, but they can decrease their cost of production, which will directly increase the margins. Okay, and also they are focusing about making a lean and sustainable kind of cost structure. And the last is the expansion plan. So what Polycab is understood, they have a very solid presence when it comes to the, let's say, the metro cities and the tier, like say the top tier cities. But they understood, they have identified like there are 300 cities which they are lagging in terms of presence, or there is, let's say, very less participants available on those regions. So they have identified 300 cities, and they are targeting to like capture it completely by upcoming 2 years. And what will happen, this will also lead to, let's say, the multiple effect, because now they have, let's say, the differentiated offerings to every client across the every channel, every corner of the India. The brand recall will increase, and also it will like play the virtuous circle effect, because now we have Polycab dealer nearby, so we can go and directly buy because we don't have any other dealer in near vicinity. So those are the three key pillars which they have identified, that these three pillars will help us to achieve, let's say, the FY26 or the mark of 20,000 crore. Okay. So now we know that we talked about all the positives and how they are going to do it. but we also need to talk about some of the key risks which this business has. So now we look at the antithesis of this investment thesis. So move on to the next slide, please. Yeah. So some of the key risks that we identified, like in terms of like the what wires and cables industry faces. So some of them can be the foreign exchange rate, a foreign exchange rate risk, and commodity price fluctuations. So for the foreign exchange side, we don't think it's going to be a major issue for Polycab because it's already sourcing 65% of the material from internal side, and the commodity price is also like when they are internally manufacturing, so they are able to bring down the cost. As well for the final product. And one more thing that we are very cautious in looking at, like they have like grown their FMEG vertical by 37% CAGR in last 5 years. But we need to understand that there are also other players in the industry, so they can also come and give the tough competition. Also, the distributor network that we talked about to reach 300 cities in couple of years. So that is also a key watchful from our side. Also, the supply chain disruptions can be a problem for, let's say, like we talked about, like some supply shortage or some industry disruption. So we don't see although major is coming from this side because Polycab has started this journey in 2018 only to, let's say, to de-risk their company, or let's say the company operations from the sourcing side and supply chain side. Also, like there can be some like battle between the IP rights because they are doing lots of branding and dealer level initiatives, which are also done by the industry participants. So sometimes there can be some risk related to breach or infringement or the IP kind of. And the lastly, the COVID-19 disruptions that we are watching. Although like we have been through the two waves, and the first wave was deadly for the company operations, but the second wave was not that deadly in terms of the as if we compare to the level one wave, like the first wave. But we also are remaining cautious that there can be chances of third wave depending on the vaccination rate and how the industry is like going ahead. So there can be some lag in terms of, let's say, the demand halt, or they can, let's say, derail the journey for a couple of quarters. But we are not like more bothered about it. We are looking at the final destination that company is trying to achieve. So I think that's it from our side on the Polycab, like how we want to go, like how we look the business and how we analyze it, and what are the key things that make us, let's say, confident that this business can achieve this kind of growth and they can deliver the shareholders good return. So that's it on the Polycab side. But lastly, like we would also like to discuss our portfolio performances across the various strategies that we run in-house. So at RH PMS, Light Horizons PMS, we whenever we are picking any sort of businesses, we are like doing the whole due diligence and carrying out the in-depth analysis and also the risk part for the any business, and then we are onboarding some stock to our internal strategies. So those strategies, like we would like to showcase like how those businesses are, like how our strategies are doing. So move on to the next slide, please. So I would also like to patch in Prabhat for the discussion on this earnings update and the portfolio performance side.
Yeah, Vijay.
Yeah, Prabhat, please.
Great. So basically, like like we have discussed earlier, also that our emphasis is to double the portfolio earnings over next 3 to 4 years, right? So basically, what we are working with a number is that, like if you can grow the earnings by 25% CAGR or something over next 3 to 4 years, then it means the earnings can double itself, right, in that time frame. And 3 to 4 is a sufficient time frame to stock price to also catch up with the same, right? So keeping that in the background, so we have come up with the recent quarter earnings, and for FlexiCap portfolio, which is our flagship portfolio, our portfolio has recorded a revenue of 12% versus index revenue of 13% growth on a year-on-year basis. However, the margins for our portfolio, EBITDA margin was EBITDA of the portfolio was up 10%, while that of the NSE 500 universe is up 10%, while that of our portfolio is up 8.2%. And then for the earnings, so basically for the NSE 500, the index, the earnings was up 78%. However, the earnings for our portfolio was up around 82%, right? So this is what the performance of our portfolio have been for for this quarter four of FY21. Side by side, we also have the graph for like the performance of the portfolio. So here in this portfolio, we are targeting somewhere around 4 to 5% annualized growth rate over the index, right? Also, along with our the 3 years to 4 years of earnings target for the portfolio. So we started this portfolio in March 19, and if we rebase it both the index and the portfolio with 200 rupees, right? So the index has grown up to 137 rupees and the portfolio has gone up to 158 rupees now, right? So that's a massive 6-7% of compounded alpha that we have generated in this FlexiCap portfolio. And going forward also, since we see a lot of hangovers because of the COVID Delta variant and a lot of slowdowns business and margin pressure that a lot of companies are talking about the recent calls. But what we feel that the companies we have in our portfolio, especially the companies from the manufacturing side, which are beneficiary of the PLI schemes and the growth inputs and the decline in the interest rates, right? So basically they are able to fund the operation at a much lower cost now, right? And the growth in the IT sector, the specialty chemical business, the India is slowly becoming the leader in the specialty chemical segment now that a lot of countries are looking at China plus one option, right? And then in the building material space also, because a lot of infra activities is going up recently. So what we are seeing that the portfolio companies are kind of immune to the current risk that we are seeing in the market, and if there would be any sort of risk that we are seeing going forward or some sort of correction that will happen, so that will we'll utilize that to top up in the current scheme, right? So we are absolutely do not endorse any sort of taking a cash position in the portfolio, going in the cash or hedging some sort of. Basically, by the virtue of the portfolio constituents, it automatically acts as a natural hedge there, right? Moving to the next slide, discussing about the super value portfolio. So basically, this is one of the portfolio that we recently restructured in December, right? We identified that the market is very favorable for mid and small cap companies, and these companies are coming. This segment, the mid and small cap segment, is coming after a good break of 2 years, right? And it's on the verge of breakout, right? So a lot of companies, good quality companies, were trading at undervalued or trading in the undervaluation zone. Right. So we recently restructured the portfolio with the same emphasis that the earnings growth should be at least should be at least double in next 3 to 4 years. And this portfolio has done extremely well, right? So if you look at the performance of the company in last 6 months, the company, this portfolio has given an alpha of 14% over the benchmark in just last 6 months alone. And if you compare the P&L of the portfolio, right? The main line items like revenue, beta, and PAT of the portfolio. So the portfolio revenue is up 73% in comparison to the 17% uptick in the index. And EBITDA of the portfolio is up 59% in comparison to 38% for the index, mid-cap 150 index. And then 85% PAT growth versus 78% PAT growth for the mid-cap 150 index, right? Again, it's a very concentrated portfolio of just 14 names, 15 names. And we are focusing on all those stories which are going to get benefited because of the emphasis on the manufacturing side, the PLI schemes and all sort of the companies who are doing a good expansion activities, doing a lot of capex to meet the future demand. So basically companies having good robust fundamentals, good operating margin, trading low leverage companies, and have good earnings potential, right? Earnings visibility at least, and who are communicating their stance with the analyst, right? So we are just onboarding those companies in the portfolio. So this has been the performance so far for the portfolio, right? So that would be all, I think, from our side, and we can open the floor for question and answers now. If we have some questions, we can take up now.
Thank you, Vijay sir and Prabhat sir, for that wonderful, insightful presentation. And also, I hope you all got a glimpse on how our schemes and funds are performing. We are now going to begin answering the question submitted during today's presentation. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the chat box. We have our first question that is from Mr. Jagdeep. While it is clear that you are rightfully relying on fundamentals, that is ROCE, debt equity ratio as a key parameters to identify company? Do you use any technical indicators, that is moving averages or volumes, to enter a particular stock?
Yeah. So to answering this question, so when we are only fundamental based portfolio running company. Okay. So when we are, let's say, analyzing an entire company, or when we are taking any, let's say, the stock exposure, so we are not entirely like worried like what is there, let's say, the moving average, or let's say some technical or chart indicators. But what we are worried about is the valuation that we are going to get. Okay. So, like, if we are talking about the, let's say, the March 2020 valuation, which is the Corona time valuation, so the valuation was very cheap. You can buy any stock, it will go up, let's say, the 50, 60, 70% has gone up in last 9 to 10 months. So there is no magic to it. Okay. So we need to understand that any, let's say, investor who goes and buys the bottom will make money. So whenever we are, let's say, the buying, let's say, in case of Polycab, or let's say any other company portfolio, so we are entirely focusing on the valuation part, so which is again a fundamental parameter. But we don't actively look at for any, let's say, the technical parameter or the chart parameter when we are, let's say, the buying or exiting stocks. Okay. So that is completely based on the fundamental side. So we don't take any like technical or chart exposures from, like, for our investment thesis. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, and just to add to Vijay's point, right? So we have our own multiples in place, right? And based on those multiples, we come up with the exit price for this stock. So let's say, like, we have assigned some multiple, and because of some, like, external factors, the stock got re-rated, right? So then we if the stock has whatever the target that we have set for the stock for 4 years, if the stock has come up in just 1 year, so we'll exit from the stock, right? So it's not the technical, but it's our own set of rules that we follow, right? And both for entering and exiting the stocks, we have some sort of guardrails, right? So that we place in the portfolio, and we execute those. Yeah. Thank you.
I hope we have answered your question. Next question is from Mr. Raja. He has two questions. First one is, what is the revenue now? And the second question he has.
Kavita, we lost you on the second question. Can you please repeat?
Yes, sir. The second question is, how do you hedge downside, sir?
Yeah. So the first question, like today's revenue, it's around odd 8.9k crore. So it's 8,900 crore. So that's a consolidated revenue, and they are planning to reach it by 20,000 crore in next 5 years. So that is the difference between the today's revenue and tomorrow's revenue, or let's say the 5 years down the line revenue. But one interesting thing that we need to understand, it's this journey will also like expand the operating margins. Okay. So currently they are operating around, let's say, the 9.5% kind of profit margin. So that margins will look quite different. Okay. So even the, let's say, the 200 or 300 basis points improvement after the 5 years can generate like disproportionate profit growth. Let's say even the revenue is going up by 2.2x, but the profit will go up by 3x. Okay. Or let's say the 2.8x, because the profit margin leverage plays quite differently. Or let's say the operating leverage, when kicks in, it gives disproportionate boost to the profit growth when the company is in growth phase. So those are the two things. And the second question was on Kavita on the hedging side. So we don't actively do any hedging for our portfolios. We are only long only portfolios. Okay. So what we think, let's say, the taking care of the risk side. So whenever we are, let's say, taking position in company, so we carry out a deep forensic analysis before picking out any company, like understanding there is any corporate filing or corporate issues, or let's say some forensic risk in the balance sheet, or there is some fraudulent activity involved at the promoter level by going through the any case which are highlighted in the course in the name of the promoters or somewhere around, and then we look at and buy the business. And also, like, we are not very worried about, let's say, the short term market fluctuation. Like, I would like to give example of even the March 2020. So like in that time, like Nifty collapsed 26% in a single month. Okay. So it was not a normal month. It was an extraordinary month for every investor or every single Indian market participant, and also on the global level. So we fairly agree. So everybody went down when the market was down. But when something goes down, it presents an opportunity to put additional money. Okay, in terms of, let's say, the stock market if someone has an additional money. So that like our clients have also come forward and put lots of money in that. So let's say somebody who invested 1 crore with us and they went down to, let's say, the 75 lakh, losing 25 lakhs. But when they invested 20 lakhs additional, so after that capital, let's say from the March, the fund has gone up by 75%. Okay. So that 1 crore has become now 1.75 crore. Okay. So that's how the Indian market, or let's say any stock market, we should look at. So any downside opportunity presents the upside risk for us. And let's say even if you don't invest in the, let's say, the bear market, in worst case you are still going to up like 50-60% as per the model portfolio. So we don't do any, let's say, the options hedge or something, but what we do, we take exposure from the different sectors and we keep tracking the companies on the quarterly basis. So let's say if there is any problem with the fundamentals of the company, let's say in case of Polycab, like I highlighted some of the key risks, they are facing, let's say, the supply side disruptions. Okay. And they are not able to, let's say, the increase their distributions. Okay. So that time we will sit with our investment team and carry out the analysis that should we should we continue to hold this holding in our portfolio, or should we exit it? Okay. So whenever we are doing some webinar or let's say discussing company, so one can have fair idea like which is the company to buy, but one cannot have idea to when to exit. It is very important to when to exit from any particular business. So that's the complete like the internal process that we carry out when we deal with any kind of business risk from the company. Okay. So Prabhat, anything you would like to add on this one, or yeah?
Yes, Vijay. Yes. So thank you for the question. It was very insightful. It was a very good question. So just to add Vijay's point, so basically what we do, right, there are two portfolios we have showcased the returns, right? So basically the hedging is again the part, the investment philosophy or the investment characteristics of the portfolio itself. So how we run a portfolio, right? So hedging incorporate itself in it, right? So I'll give an example. Vijay told you about that in March 2020, the market was down around 24%, 27% in a month, right? So we have two portfolios, FlexiCap and SuperValue that we showed, right? So obviously FlexiCap is a portfolio which has which has a lot of constituents and it has the flexibility to go and hold something like gold in the portfolio, right? So if you're holding gold in a portfolio in a time of crisis, so it actually protects on the downside. Plus, since it's it's price increase because of there is a volatility in the market, so we also get the benefit of the price increase from the gold, right? So this is what we are doing instead of taking the cash position in the portfolio. And the second part to it was since SuperValue is a kind of portfolio which is there for high risk appetite, right? The clients having high risk appetite. So how we run this portfolio is basically, let's say a stock is there in the portfolio which has we did our webinar in November, right? We covered a stock which was at 1,000 rupees, which has gone up to close to 2,500 rupees now, right? So from November last year to this July, the stock has gone from 1,000 to 2,500 rupees post webinar, right? This was our target for the stock for 2 years. Since it has already achieved the target in 7 years, what we did, we had gone ahead and cut the position in the stock by 2 or 3%, right? That was such a massive increase in the stock price, and what we feel that incrementally, what we hold in the portfolio, it will not add much value, right? So what we can do, we can take out some profit and then invest in some of the companies which are which seems fairly valued. It doesn't mean if the stock has gone up, it doesn't mean that stock is not good from a long-term perspective. It's just that from a short-term perspective and based on our approach, right? The guardrails that we set, the P multiples that we set for a stock to reach, we feel that if we take out some of the profits there, then we can reallocate to some of the portfolios, right? Some of the other stocks in the portfolios. So that's basically how we hedge the portfolio in our own way. We don't take any active cash costs in the portfolio or any sort of other things to do the hedging or take a short position in the market. We don't do that. I'll give an example, in month of February this year, SuperValue portfolio was up around 22%. It was best performing portfolio across all the categories in India. But yet again, at that month, we are sitting on around 8% cash in the portfolio. The reason being that, the stocks were going up and we are taking out 0.5%, 1% there from the stocks. So that, whatever the portfolio that's out there, whatever the profit that's out there, at least we take out that profit and invest at some other stocks and in the same stock at lower levels, right? So this is what we are actively doing with the portfolio. It's not a passive portfolio, like we just invest in the company of 14 stocks portfolio and we lay it around, right? So our job as a portfolio manager, it has two jobs, right? First, to pick the stocks which can grow at 15 to 20% CAGR at least on the earning side for next 4 to 5 years. And the other job is to rebalance the portfolio in such a way that the portfolio keeps on growing in a more sustainable manner, right? So this is our approach to hedging the portfolio. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Sir, next question is from Mr. Jacob Abraham. What is your expected share price after 5 years, and is it advisable to invest at current market rate?
Yeah. So, I will not discuss in detail how we arrive at the final, let's say, the stock price or stock value, to be very fair. But we normally we build up a strong financial business model, depending on the different scenario analysis and all, and then we arrive at some different. Let's say the number that we think that this where the stock price will be. So we won't give any exclusive guidance, but what we can tell you that we are looking at around 20% kind of compounding on the profit side for the next 5 to 6 years. So I think you can back calculate the stock price CAGR. Also on the valuation side. So see, there is a two part to the growth in any stock or any business. So one is the growth that you are getting from the profit growth. So anyway, 20% profit growth is you are going to get 20% stock price compounding in long term, not in short term, to be very honest. So if you compare the 5 years or 6 years earnings CAGR, it will be around the same will be the stock price CAGR. Okay, when the stock is reasonably valued, or let's say the stock is on the higher range of the PE bands. But in this sector, what we think that this sector itself is quite undervalued. Okay, given the fundamental characteristics and also the stability of the cash flows. Okay, so when we are talking about, let's say, the Nestle or Asian Paints, they are fairly stable business models and their cash flow stability is quite high. Okay, so everyone knows that in even Corona time, we were all getting Maggie by nearby shop. Okay, so that thing is also getting replicated in the Polycab business, or let's say the even Asian Paints, although they are not allowed to run business when there is extreme, let's say, COVID negative times. But even in normal times, we will have solid visibility of the store visit, or let's say in our area, and that will also increase the stability of the cash flow. So market loves, or let's say gives the higher price multiple, or let's say the valuation to the companies whose cash flows are predictable and very sustainable. Okay, so the durability of the cash flow is very important for any business. So similarly, we think that Polycab will have that kind of the re-rating advantage versus the other industry which are already exploited, or which investors are already let's say invested heavily and the valuation is quite high. So we think that there will be combination of, let's say, the profit growth of around 20% in the balance sheet, and the remaining part will come, let's say, the today's valuation multiple is around 25x to 30x P on 1 year forward. That should handsomely reach around 40 to 45x. So that will be the additional kicker that you can see. So more or less, you can do the calculation and get some particular stock price by just adding 20% CAGR to the stock, and also adding some potential upside from the valuation side. So that will how the stock price will look like on a general side. Yeah.
Yes, just adding to Vijay's point, right? So that was a very conservative thing that when we say that it's a 20% kind of EPS growth that we'll see in over next 5 years, right? Because what just to highlight, the revenue currently of the company is 9,000 crore, right? It's going to be 20,000 crore in FY26. That's roughly 18% CAGR revenue growth, right? 17-18% revenue growth CAGR. Now the operating margin of the company is somewhere around 12-13% because of all the initiatives and the the economics of scale that will kick in, right? So that can, if that will improve slightly to 14-15%, again, that's a fair chance for that to happen, right? And what we have historically observed that with 10% kind of revenue CAGR, the company has clocked 30% kind of 35% kind of profit CAGR, right? So revenue to profit transferability is roughly around 3.5x, right? So if we are seeing that 18% kind of revenue CAGR jump in next 5 years, 20% is a fairly conservative thing. Again, you can just put in these numbers and calculate, right, what the earnings will look like, right, over 5 years. And if you can just give us whatever the current multiple is, 30, 35 P, right? Just to remind you that Havells trades somewhere around 50, 55, 60 P, right, which is a market leader and all. So if we give some sort of not that P, but again just 30, 35 P, so we're sitting on a very comfortable returns, right, at that point of time. So just we can't give a future target, right? We'll just try to explain in that way. Yeah.
So the next question is from Jerry Santiago. His question is, how you see Havel as its competitor?
Yeah, so Havells, if we talk about, so those are mainly into the FMEG segment. Okay, so they are not quite active in terms of, let's say, even we talk about the market share we talked about. So Polycab is the largest player. Second largest player is the Krishna Electricals. Okay, so it's around third or fourth number player in Havells, and Havells is had built its brand around FMEG side. And when we are talking about the market itself is quite big. Okay, so when the market, or let's say when the pond is too big, so multiple fishes can survive in the same pond. Okay, so that's the same story with the wires and cable segment. So we don't see any price competition right now. So I will just like to give example, different industries are in different phases. Okay, so when we are talking about, let's say, the finance industry, or let's say the banking side, or let's say the insurance industry, or let's say the wires and cable segment, so those industries are quite big and the industry itself are growing. Okay, so the company, or let's say the players who are playing this game, they won't like to cut each other's profit share. Okay, because anyway we saw that the industry is growing 12%. So their focus will be we need to capture more market share from, let's say, building our plants or building our expertise or brand. Okay, so when the price war, or let's say this different thing happens, like price war, when it's the case of telecom companies. Okay, so when telecom companies we are talking about, so those are the monopolistic kind of market, 3 or 4 players dominating the whole industry. We saw lots of tele players like Tata Docomo and lots of other Uninor and all, they got exited or they were acquired. Now there are only 3 players major and 1 government player which is just doing its government thing. So then the price war kicks in when the industry stagnates, or let's say there is no volume growth or there is no value growth. So the people start taking each other or capturing each other's clients. So we don't think that this is going to happen in telecom, let's say, wires and cable industry in next 10 years as well, because it's a quite growing industry. And if we talk about the Havells, so Havells has not come so aggressive on the let's say the wires and cable side, because see, financial parameters are one thing. Okay, so when you perform the operations at the year end, you will understand what was my profit growth. But you can, if you understand the business model, you can forecast that how their profit loss look like after 2 years or 3 years, based on the initiatives they are doing today in present. So when we are seeing the different projects which are initiated by the Polycab and what they have already done in terms of delivery period on the wires and cable segment side exclusively, because 85% of the revenue is coming from the wires and cable segment. So we think that we don't see any the fierce competition kicking from the Havells. And if we talk about the growth rate, so anyway Polycab has a solid growth rate compared to the peers or let's say the industry. So we don't see any major competition from the Havells or any other business player, because they can organically focus on their operations. The game is not reached that far that they have to cut each other's market share right now. So they can grow by differentiating their products right now. But when the industry stagnates, or let's say the industry growth goes to 3-4%, then they can start doing the price war, which is a fearsome game for any company, because when one company does the price war, another company will does the price war, and the margin will collapse. So nobody likes their margin to collapse at this point of the time in industry, because the industry is going itself. Yeah. So Prabhat, any more point you would like to add, or
Yeah, just to talk specifically, compare specifically with Havells, right? So there are 2 things to the stock price movement. The first is the earnings, and the second is the multiple it commands, right? So entering into Havells, right? Havells in itself could be a good business, right? But the thing is, like, it's such a high valuation. So basically, the rating scopes get limited down there, right? And here we have both the kickers and Polycab, right? It is poised for a solid earning growth over the next 4 to 5 years. Plus, the valuation is something that gives us very comfort with the company, right? It's actually trading below the industry valuation, right? So that's what gives us comfort. That's why we have chosen to go ahead with Polycab and not the other way around, right?
So the next question is from Janaki Raman Padmanabhan. It is almost similar to the previous question. That is how it is comparable with Finolex Cable.
Pardon, we lost you a bit there, Kavita.
So the question is almost similar to the previous one. How it is comparable with Finolex Cables.
Yeah. So I would just like a quick example. Okay. So like see, when we are talking about, let's say, the peer analysis, or let's say we are comparing the one company with the same company in the same sector. Okay. So that's roughly the solid peer analysis. Okay. So we have very like a fundamental like philosophy when it comes to the, let's say, the investment world, or let's say the strategies that we are running. So what we have like viewed, or what we have seen in the market as well. So we choose only the best, or let's say the leader in the industry. Okay. Why? Because they have more solid balance sheet. They are like more profit margins. They have aggressive expansion plan. They have better teams. They have better brand. Okay. And they don't have any promoter side issues, or they are not struggling with the existing business operations. Okay. So we don't find any struggle with the Polycab. Okay. So why I'm saying this? Because I would like to give example from the NBFC segment. Okay. So we all know the story of Bajaj Finance, how it has done in the past, and also the story of Asian Paints, which is a leader, story of the Pidilite, story of the Titan, which is again the leader in jewelry. And there were so many companies in jewelry segment as well, like PCJ, or let's say the different small unorganized players. There is Kalyani Jewelers and all, Kalyan Jewelers. So what we have seen in the past, like market would like always like to go for the best in the industry. Okay, let it be the higher valuation, because they get a sense of comfort from the business when they are buying a leadership business, or let's say they are buying, let's say, the best in terms of quality. Okay. So what we see in theory is quite different when it comes to the stock market, because stock market is made up of the people like you, me, and everyone else. So we are all like prone to the psychological biases, and we all like to buy the best thing which is available in the game. Okay. So we have like structured our philosophy in that manner. Like we will always go with the market leader, or let's say the second best leader. Okay. In terms of market share, or let's say in terms of various parameters when we are talking, like the forensic issues, or let's say the clarity of the management over the business, like it is very high for the Polycab. Also the engagement with the shareholders is very good when it comes to Polycab, because we attend the quarterly calls, and we also ask questions to the management, and we think that they are doing fair justice, and they are very proactive when it comes to their let's say the like the mistakes or whatever they have done in past. So we like their attitude on the overall basis. So there are lots of subjective parts as well to the story, that why we prefer something, but that is in that like why we choose Polycab over any other company names like the Finolex or something else. So Prabhat, anything you would like to extend on this part, like on the company side?
Yeah, Vijay, you have captured it beautifully. Just to add, like, well, we do the initial screening, right? So we have our own set of criteria to screen the stock. And we do like to, after doing the initial, like, screening and filtration, because there's a 5,000 companies out there, right? And we don't have the bandwidth, neither do we want to look at all the companies in depth, right? So what we do, like, just to take you through our research process, we do an initial sort of filtration in terms of, like, some of the financial items, like how the profit growth has been, how the revenue growth has been, or how the ROCE of the business, or like, all these financial ratios have been for the company. So we do a comparison, and then we assign some of the weights, right? Some weights to each of the balance sheet items, the P&L items, then like, the analyst rating we assign, then everything we do it a very comprehensive way. And then we do a ranking of all the stocks in the industry, right? So stocks from the same industry. So we have done all those things, right? Just to, like, on top of it, if I can just highlight, so the revenue growth for like this Polycab has been much better than Finolex Cables historically. The guidance has been much better than Finolex Cable. If you look at the ratios like ROC or ROE of the company, so it has been like superior. It's not just like, with Finolex, but it's it's best in the industry, right, for the Polycab. So that's the reason why we have gone ahead with it. Right? If the company is able to generate sufficient cash and then it can compound it at a faster rate or higher rate, then it means like, the earnings can go on increasing, like, in a very gradual manner, even without doing much work there. And the capex plan that the company has announced now, so it brings in some more confidence in the company. Right? So that was the reason we have gone ahead with the Polycab. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like to particularly talk about the EPS growth and the fundamental things that we are basically investing. So if we are talking about the profit growth side, so we had some numbers like so I would just like to share those numbers. Like if we talk about the long term like growth rate for the Polycab, so for the 10 years, the profit growth was around 37 odd percent. Okay, on the CAGR basis. So let's say you invested in Polycab, so it was growing at 37% each year for the 10 years. Okay. You don't need to worry about anything, what is going on and above. There were so many market disruptions in the last 10 years. Okay. There, like the crisis in 2018, 2013 crisis, all. But apart from that, the stock, like the PAT growth has been 38%. And in last 5 years, if we are talking, it's around 30%. But when we compare it with the Phenolex, Phenolex has around 16% kind of CAGR for last 10 years, and in last 5 years it's around 4% odd. So what we think that the ability to let's say the maintain the strong business growth across the cycles, not the market cycle, not the business cycle. Okay, the business cycles are the industry cycles, those are not linked to the market, stock markets. Okay, stock market can play its own cycle depending on the liquidity and the public's enthusiasm or the participants enthusiasm, but there is the business cycle that we should be focusing when we are investing fundamentally. So across the cycle, we saw that Polycab has maintained very well. Okay, the kind of growth or the stability in terms of profit growth margin, and that's why we like the stability over the uncertainty, or let's say the predictability over the unpredictability. So I think those are the like the subjective sides which we follow on the investment side. So that's the reason we would prefer something like Polycab. And if we have to go to the some different name, so we'll go for the like the fastest growing at a better quality. If we have to go for some secondary name in the same industry. So I think that's it for this question from our side. I think it hopes it answers your query.
Yeah, just for Vijay's point, so if you have to pick the second best from the segment, so it would be KEI, right? So we have analyzed the business, we have gone through it. So it looks like a good business from our perspective, and we are holding the stock in the portfolio.
Yeah, Kavita.
So the next question is from Mr. Ajay Kumar. Is it so overvalued now? What would be the good price to enter?
We lost you bit, which is overvalued, like what?
So now the stock price is overvalued. So he's asking what would be the good price to enter, sir?
No, so we would like to highlight the stock is not overvalued in terms of valuation parameters that we cover. Okay, so it's a huge room still left for the valuation upside. So maybe on the correction, because market has like different moods on different days. Okay, so anything negative comes, the stock will correct, or you can, if one wants to invest in, let's say, any company that we are discussing, or let's say any company that they are covering on their own, they can look for some short-term falls or short-term pressure, and they can look to buy it. Okay, but what we have observed in stock market, so I will give one example of company called Titan. We all are familiar with the Titan. So in adjusted basis, the stock price was 2 rupees in 2001. Okay, and the stock price went till 70 rupees in 2008, and it collapsed till 40 rupees in 2008. Okay, but if we all waited for that crash, we would have missed the gigantic run from 2 rupees to 70 rupees. Today, the stock has become 1800 rupees, 1750 rupees. Okay, stock has gone up by 850x in the last 20 years. Okay, so when you are investing in some fundamentally strong companies, you should look for some short-term pain in the business, but you should not miss out on the best stories. Okay, because see, we are not trying to build the profit game in these strategies. We are trying to build a wealth game. Okay, so wealth is something that you don't need to earn on daily basis. Okay, profit you can earn on monthly basis. You have to pick lots of businesses you have to do here and around, but once you build the wealth, you are king of your life. Okay, so we are trying to build the wealth for our like the clients that we are with us. So our always approach has been to think long term, and people may get jittery that who are not familiar with the stock market, but let's say the multi-bagger returns, or let's say the 100x or 250x kind of return, or like in case of Titan, 850x kind of return can only come when investor looks beyond the short term, okay, and not worried about, let's say, 3 quarters or what is going to happen in, let's say, next year or 2 years. Of course, we understand some people will have like a very short term horizon as well, and we respect that, because every person has different investment horizon. But what we have observed and what works best for any, let's say, the long term player is to hold the business from long term and not worry much about the valuation when, let's say, the even the valuation is reasonable, not specifically undervalued. Like it was undervalued when it was at 20x P. So that was in January at some 1100. Okay. So we are not bothered by the stock price, because if earnings will grow, price is growing, so valuation can remain stable. But what has happened, the company has little bit moved from undervalued to, let's say, the stable zone, or let's say the reasonable valuation zone, and it can again go up from like what we think on the valuation side. So if one would like to invest, one can wait for some mild correction and go about it. Even if you can like to stagger the, let's say, the buying levels or whatever you can think, like let's say you want to invest 1 crore in one company, you can invest in 30 lakh some tranches, so it can average out your buying cost. Okay, but we don't actively advise all this kind of stuff, because today, let's say, I will be very honest, we are conducting a webinar. Now people can go and carry out their analysis as well on the stock, and they can go and buy. But when the situation changes on the company and when to exit, no one will know. Okay, it might happen like, let's say, the 6 months down the line or 2 years down the line, we think that there is some fundamentally different in the stock and we may exit. So why I pointed out this, there was one company called, I won't disclose the name because it's again the it's not allowed to disclose on the public side. But what I can tell you that there was one company from the pharmaceutical heavy equipment side, which was, it had gone up like crazy around 6x in a single year, and it collapsed around 40 to 50% based on certain activity that the business carried out. So when that activity was carried out, the stock market didn't realize it quickly. Okay, so whenever something happens, the market will wait and watch that what will be the outcome of that action on the business. Okay, so but as a like a experienced players, we understand like what can happen to this business, and we were able to exit from the top at around, let's say, 10%, which when it was down 10% down from the top. But somebody who waited just for, let's say, 2 weeks, the stock price collapsed by 50%. Okay, so it gave up the initial 6x gain to only 3x gain. Okay, so these things can happen. So it's very important to cover both the side, like entry and exit. Okay, so that's our like general advice to anyone, like whoever wants to invest, they should be cautious and let the like the fair person or expert person do their job when it comes to the investing, because today is the bull run, so every stock will fly, but how many stocks retain the level or, let's say, fall less, will be the multi baggers for the next upcoming years. Because in 2018 we saw like what happened to the, let's say, the companies who are flying so high, like HEG or Edelweiss or you name it, they collapse like 80% in the next single year. So that can happen whenever the cycle turns, the non-quality business gets hammered by 60-70%. That's a part of the game. But we always tell our investors and also the potential clients that one should be taking care of both the sides when it comes to the investing. Yeah, Prabhat, anything you would like to add? Yeah.
No, that's fine, Vijay. I think you have beautifully covered it. Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
So next we have an interesting question from Mr. Madhu. With the euphoria in IPO, are you looking investing in new age companies or coming with different products?
Yeah, so that's a quite interesting question. So, uh, so what we see as a bull market, so every bull market will have some sector who is going into the leadership position. Okay, and like if we talk about the 2000, there was the internet boom. So everyone was very excited about the Infosys, Wipro in 2000 times. The valuations were crazy, 350 XP for Infosys, which is trading around 335 XP today. So in this, in 2008, it was the finance, or let's say the capital goods or the commodity boom. In 2018, there were lots of commodity companies like HEG, Philips Carbon, Goa Carbon, and all those sort of companies. Also, the some of the brokerage companies like IIFL and like Motilal or MK Global and all sort of companies. So in this bull run, what we see the major boom is because of the fintech. There are lots of listings happening for the fintech, but we need to understand. Let's say I'm just giving example of recent IPO Zomato that everyone is excited and it has gained a lot of popularity because everyone knows the brand and majority of the Indians are also using it. So when it comes to such kind of things, we need to make sure that company is making some profit, okay? Because let's say if the Zomato is growing at 40% growth, why the existing investors are selling or why they are coming to the market? They are only coming to the market because the company is still running on the loss. Okay. So they are still don't have capital to finance the business going forward. That's how we look at the business. We understand if you are carrying out any business, you should be profitable with some definite time. Let it be 5 years or let it be 7 years. But the path to profitability should be there, because if you don't make money on balance sheet, you are not going to make money in the stock market. That's the game. You should be very clear. If you are making money in the balance sheet, that is the same account that will get reflected in the stock price or the market cap. Okay. So we are very sure. So, but yeah, we also recognize there are some digital changes, or let's say the boom which is coming on the IT side. So we have onboarded couple of businesses which are quite differentiating, and they are making like the profit with the heavy margin as well, and they are growing decently. So we don't think like we need to go overboard and we need to go aggressive and buy some company which is a product of the fintech boom without a single rupee of profit. So we have done our analysis and we have already taken those positions. And one of their position has already gone up 2.5x in last 10 months. So we are like very focused and excited about the same company. And another company is also up like since our initiation price is also become like 2.5x. So we think that these companies are from the different digital segment and will help us and also help our clients to achieve their, let's say, the goal of creating the huge wealth. Yeah. Yeah, Kavita, back to you. Or Prabhat, you would like to add anything around it?
No, we can move to the next question now.
Yeah.
So the next question is from Mr. Shah. What financial aspects we need to look into while selecting stocks price less than 200?
Stock price less than 200.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I think the that question is interesting along with some insight. So when we are looking at the stock price, we should not look at the absolute stock price. Okay, so there is the philosophy remains same when you are looking at the Nestle who has 17,000 rupees stock price, or let's say the Honeywell Automation which is a 45,000 stock price, and it is also same when we are looking for the 200 rupees stock price. Okay, the financial aspects can be the return on capital employed, PAT growth, but those are all high level parameters. Okay, those are all the, let's say, the result based parameters. Okay, so let's say like I'm just giving a very real life example. Let's say when a child is studying, if we get its result after a year, let's say today is the result day, and we know that he is going to he has got the fifth rank. Okay, and he has achieved some 95% in the final exam, but we that is the outcome of the efforts that child has put in for the last year. Okay, so we if we study, or let's say if we look at the child for initial couple of months when child is studying, or we know it's past that okay he was coming in the top 5 for last 5 years as well. Okay, so we have a fair chance that we know before the final result announced, we know that he will be in top 5. Okay, that's the same story when it comes to the companies. We don't have to exclusively rely on the outcome based parameters like the financial parameters. Okay, of course you can look at the return on capital employed, profit growth, sales growth, debt to equity, but you need to go down and look at the how the company is trying to change its business. Okay, or what the promoter thinks where it will take the business in couple of years or next 5 years or next decade. Okay, that creates the 40x or 50x kind of multiple growth. Okay, or let's say that you call it the one idea for the life. Okay, that one idea you can make huge profit and you can retire, or you can just chill out in your life. Okay, so when you are looking at a company, we whose stock price is less than 200, we should look at the forensic part as well, like how the company's operations are, or whether the promoter was involved in some fraudulent activity, or there was some insider trading going on, and how they were talking with the minority shareholders. So of course we understand it's a very lengthy process, and for an individual who has not practiced it a lot can find some difficulty. But at least whatever parameters we have highlighted, of course one can look at it. But we advise that not to go overboard on such things, because as a individual investor, it's very difficult to attend the financial calls of the companies, because one is also doing a job or carrying out the business. So managing two boards is always a difficult, and it's not a focused one. So if one wants to pursue the investment career very passionately, so one can start at least looking at the fundamental parameters that we have highlighted. Also some of the promoter side comments, like how they are looking at the business, so that you can have idea like, okay, the business will reach here. So something around it. And also lastly, the forensic issues like insider trading, or let's say some fraudulent activity which a promoter had carried out. So that one, at least the starting point for any, let's say, the individual investor. Yeah.
Prabhat sir, would you like to share any insight regarding this?
I think we just covered it quite beautifully. But just to add, that if you don't have much time to look into the stock market, right, and you want to build a portfolio for retirement or for long-term wealth creation, so there are just 2-3 things that you need to keep in mind, right? The first is the company has demonstrated good performance in the past, because by rule of thumb, what we can expect that since the company has demonstrated over cycle, let's say 10 years, it is going to do well over the next 2-3 years as well, right? So those stocks we can find in the traditional companies, traditional sectors, right? And then what we can do, we can look for the management side, right? How management is open to the to the outside environment, right? How frequently they are coming on the television and giving their interviews, they are addressing the queries of the minority shareholders and all. So if these two things go hand in hand, and the company don't have a checkered past, right, or not involved in any malpractices, so I think that company is good enough to demonstrate a above average return, what you can expect from the market. So you just need to be sure of the company's growth prospect, the company's management, that's a very important thing. And then some of the that the company is free from any sort of malpractices or corporate governance issues. So that thing you should keep in mind. And I think price doesn't have much impact, right? It's okay to buy even stocks above 200 rupees. You should not restrict yourself. Unless until you don't want to get into a penny stock portfolio side of 10-20 rupees stock, where we don't have much expertise there, right? But eventually, if you want, so it doesn't matter if it's a stock is trading to 200 rupees or above it doesn't make much, doesn't hold much significance there, right?
Yeah. Also on this side, we talked about one of the company called Titan, and we talked about its growth as well. So it's on general note, because there are lots of retail participants or the individual participants who are excited about market, and they are spending time with us today and asking very insightful questions. So for all of them, we have one common advice, or let's say suggestion, whatever you name it, and our thought of philosophy, that whatever, let's say, money that we are going to invest in the companies. So today we are investing in the companies which are growing their revenues or profit beyond 25% or 20%. Okay. So if we look at the rough idea, these companies, if they keep on compounding, even if the company names keep on changing on, let's say, every 3-4 years or every year, whatever it is. So it is very important to remain consistent. Okay. So last year was a bull run. So everyone, let's say, made 70%, whoever bought any stock without opening their eyes. You pick A, B, C, D, any stock in March or April, it will go up 70-80%. So there is no magic about it. What the magic is, let's say you have 1 crore, and if you are able to make those 1 crore to 10,000 crore in next 40 years, and 1,000 crore in next 30 years, okay, and 1 lakh crore in 50 years, okay. So that is the same compounding growth. If you, let's say, want to make 1 crore to, let's say, in 40 years, 10,000 crore, and let's say next 30 years, you want to make it 1,000 crore, the consistency should be there, that I achieve 26% CAGR in long run. Okay. You don't have to be like flattered or distracted by the company who is running in a short term without future vision. Okay, one needs to deliver consistently, picking the same businesses. Let it be the uh, business more than 200 rupees price or less than 200 rupees stock price. It doesn't matter. One should be very consistent across the approach, because stock market rewards the discipline, and when it rewards very handsomely. So each 1 crore invested in Titan in 2001 has become 850 crore in 20 years. And when we stretch this horizon to 30, 40 years, it will go like sky high. So we want our investors, or like the industry participants who are with us today, to build a huge wealth, okay, and participate in that journey with us or through their individual route, but focus on the some of the key consistent parameters that because we are very sure, like in the history as well, we have like examples. Only few of us who are attending this webinar will reach 1000 crore by 30 years. Okay, that's a very cold hearted truth, but that truth is one thing that we should always keep in mind, so that it gives us a discipline to stick to our philosophy. And when the market is not like in bear run, today is a bull run, so everyone is excited, but when it comes to the bear run, we may get saddened that stock price is not going up. At that time, this fundamental focus will help you. That will give you a strength that okay, I can sail out this journey, or let's say the 30 years 1000x return or 1000 crore. So that journey is far important in a consistent manner. It should not be like this year I'm making 100%, month, next year I'm losing 50%, which happened with so many small cap, or let's say the extraordinary players in 2018. They created 3 4x in a single year and they lost 50%. So 50 70 80% in a single year. So that one should not do. One should always remain consistent and disciplined when it comes to investing. Yeah. Back to you, Kavita. Yeah.
So next question is from Raja. How frequently do you churn your portfolio?
Yeah, Prabhat, would you like to take this question?
Yes. So normally, like, every portfolio has a different churn rate, like, turnover of the portfolio. So talking specifically about the flagship portfolio of FlexiCap. So the normal churn rate is somewhere around 30-35%. And similarly for the super value, it should be around 35%, right? So that's the average that we talk that, like, in 3 years, we'll completely churn the portfolio, or the portfolio will get entirely churned, right? So this is what our internal thing is. We don't focus on much like doing active thing. We do some sort of like 0.5% here and there, but that doesn't add much to it, right? And on a year, like in a year we onboard 3 to 4 new stocks, right? So the initial allocation is somewhere around 4 to 5% if we are not very I mean, it's not our top priority. So we onboard with 4 to 5%, then 0.5%, 1% they're like in a month or in a quarter. So that roughly adds up to 35%, right? So last year the churn was slightly higher because we're setting up the portfolios and all. But since we have already onboarded most of the strategies that we wanted in the portfolio, right? And it's nicely placed there, right? So incrementally will not be like the portfolio holdings will not be like changing very much, right? So there will be hardly will be seeing 2 3 stocks, different stocks if you are like looking at it next year. But what you can expect that every quarter will take away some of the profit that will be roughly 3 to 4%, and then we can reinvest back at the lower levels or in some other stocks. So I hope this answers your questions. Yeah, Kavita, back to you.
Yeah. So, the last question for today is from Sham. That is, how do you identify if the stocks are going to be manipulated, even though the fundamentals are good? Hope you have seen the recent example of Reliance. After AGM, it dropped to 2100 instead of moving upward.
So can you please repeat the question, Kavita? I lost you a bit there. I thought there was some network glitch on my end.
Yes, sir. I'll repeat it again, sir. How do you identify if the stocks are going to be manipulated, even though the fundamentals are good? Hope you have seen recent example of Reliance. After AGM, it dropped to 2100 instead of moving upward.
Yeah, so see, like particularly if we talk about Reliance, so there is nothing wrong. So see, AGM, what is happening in the AGM? So even one thing has like different perspectives when we are looking at the same thing, okay? Because each individual is different. So when Reliance started the Geo journey, the long back, no one was excited about Reliance. They for the 5 years they only distributed laid down the cables in the C for the 5 years for the 5G optic cable. And when they started raising the capital for the through Facebook and like the Google last year, then the stock got heavily re-rated. Okay, so same people who are like were not excited when the Geo was started, or let's say the even the Geo was getting traction, but the people got excited when they got money in the business, like Facebook and other big players came in. So that is the short-term philosophy. Like even after AGM, the stock is going down by let's say 3-4% or 5-6%. It does not matter. Those are random fluctuations, and the market has like a very distinctive thing for rewarding the long-term vision. I'm just giving example of a company called Relaxo. Okay, so they have hired the BCG in 2016 to optimize their cost of production. Okay, so when they hired, because BCG charges very high for any consulting project, and so for some time their margins collapsed. Okay, the stock price remained stagnant. Okay, it was around 270 rupees. But those optimization of the problem or whatever initiatives they carried out in that year, whatever the margin hit that they took in that year, had helped them to increase their margins very well. And if you look at the stock price, it was around 250 rupees at that time. Today it's around 1100 rupees. Okay, so not everyone has reason to understand that what this short-term pain will bring the tomorrow's hefty gain. Okay. So we everyone in the game has to sacrifice today's, let's say, some time or some profit to gain more tomorrow. Okay. That's the part of the game. So apart coming from the fraudulent activities carried out, so I think NSE and BSE has also become very sharp. So whenever some stocks sees the, let's say, some fraudulent activities, or let's say the higher like the major volume spikes and all, so they issue a notice to particular company, and at that time the company explains the clarification on the exchange. So one can easily go and go through the BSE's corporate disclosure. They can find the companies whenever there is some abrupt price movement, or there is some increase in the, let's say, the mechanism of the SLBM, which is a security lending and borrowing mechanism. They can check the data and they can get, okay, there is not there is happening something wrong, so we will come to know, because company has to do the disclosure as per the SEBI's norm and as per the exchange regulation. So one can keep track of those things. Of course, other thing is that to keep track of the bulk deals that is happening in the company. So it's a very good indicator that what big guys are doing. Like in Reliance, they had a very big two bulk deals in around 950 rupees, when Reliance was around 950 rupees from their parental companies. So from their basically the promoter company, promoter family group. So we need to keep track, but those don't necessarily help, because those are not the things that create some disproportionate gain. The gain that creates what is company is going to do or accomplish. Like they are going to become lots of aggressive in the green initiative or the renewable initiative going forward. So how they will play out, it depends. Let's say the how they are executing the project, whatever they have. But when it comes to our particular portfolio, so we keep track of forensic parameters, like I mentioned. So we will go to the indiaqanun.com, and where you can find any fraudulent case involved against any Indian person. Okay, you can take help those kind of tools, forensic tools, where you can find out some fraudulent or, let's say, malpractice behaviors in the promoters or, let's say, the company itself. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Due to short of time, I guess we have to end this session. Thank you, Vijay sir and Prabhat sir, for answering all our questions. And thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. If you have any other questions or any other queries, please contact us. And if by chance, if you have missed today's webinar, you will be receiving a follow-up mail, and you'll be able to view the recordings of today's webinar. So on behalf of Right Horizons Financial Services and our presenters, thank you for joining us today and being such a wonderful audience, and have a great rest of the day ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for having us on hosting this Saturday. Yeah, thank you everyone.
We'll see you next month.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.